Hello and welcome once again to another episode of the Scrumcast over at handcannononline.com, where PP giveth and PP taketh away. With me, as usual, is the rock of the podcast, Fraser Belfort, DeffHeadDice on all things social media. Welcome.
Evening.
And back again, Chris. Welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for having me again.
Hopefully we won't be marred by all of the terrible technical issues we had last time. Cross your fingers.
Here's hoping.
Yes, right? All
Don't
right,
jinx it.
Let's get started with the lovable section that we've now dubbed bookkeeping. Fraser, take it away.
So yeah, I'm going to get this down. So Facebook, got a Facebook page at facebook.com/TrollbloodScrum. Twitter is at TrollbloodScrum. For those listening to the podcast, you can watch it live on Twitch Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time or 7 p.m. Pacific. There we go. I knew what time zone you were in. And Battle Reporter. So keep putting those games in. All the CID stuff is in there. So the new Steamroller, the new... actually, we haven't added the new one, part of our news, but the new Crix one. So we're updating that as quickly as we can. So keep reporting those games. And if you are going to any tournaments that are being run with PG Swiss in the next little while, you may see an opportunity to use your Battle Reporter PID number to register for your game and get your games from PG Swiss put into your Battle Reporter account. So we're working on that with the guys over there. So that is the bookkeeping. Oh, and I'm going to steal it and roll into the first part of the news, which is our logo contest, which a number of our fine listeners have submitted some logos to. Has finished officially. It was closed at the end of April. So we are meeting. The TrollbloodScrum host consortium is meeting and going to vote on what our favorites are. But we're also going to have a fan favorite poll. So we're going to put all the logos out there, and you'll be able to vote on which one you like the best. And whatever wins the popularity vote will be considered a winner. And I think we'll shower some rewards on them as well.
But you can't win twice, so if you win because we took you, you can't get both votes. Just saying.
Rules. Who needs rules?
I'm an authoritarian, Fraser. Authoritarian. Everybody must bow to my will.
I can't hear you. La 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 la.
Look, this is Trump's America now.
I saw a lot of the logos on the website there, the Facebook page, and there's some really nice work that was done there. Some of the ones that were submitted already, just amazing.
Yeah,
I'm really enthusiastic about it. And we've been waiting so long for something to really jump out at us, and I think this is a great opportunity to sort of revitalize the image of the TrollbloodScrum. Moving it away from three old grumpy bearded dudes.
Wait a minute, that was our trademark.
Now,
my only complaint, and this is I'll complain, is I can't pick them all because there's not been one I haven't liked in one form or another. So again, to all the fine people that submitted them, we're really blown away and really appreciate all the hard work you guys put into it because they do look amazing. So look for the poll after probably Sunday evening. I'm going to the Southern Ontario Open and I'm not doing it before then. So. And I think that's it for my part of the news. I think we have some other news.
Yeah, we do. All right. So in true PP style, right before we record every day on Wednesday, they like to drop new model releases or CID updates or all of that crap. So we got new stuff to talk about. So this week, they updated the Battle Engine CID to include changes to our Battle Engine. In addition to that, we got a new theme force. So I'm going to go over the Battle Engine first. We're going to discuss that, and then we'll move into the theme force and see if we can't, divine any of the creative juices in our brains and see if we can't come up with something cool. So let's start with the War Wagon. They're saying they're sort of changing the way that they want people to use it, right? Not like just a mobile weapons platform, but they want it to, sort of be a committed piece. So what they're changing right now is the model gains a rule called Shooting Gallery. So it gains a +2 to ranged attack rolls against models within 5 inches of it. And then it additionally loses its power attack trample, which I'm like, wah on. So trample gave us a lot of things. In addition to ways to basically free up your model from intervening models, trample was always a good option, especially since we had a pretty fast model. In addition to that, it gave us a lot of ranged punch, like a very, very potent, 22-inch threat on the pie plate that really had to make your opponent take account of the of the model's threat range. Now you lose 3 inches on that, so we're down to 19 overall because you can't technically fail a charge and shoot anymore, I think is the way that the rules are written. Or is it just for warlocks that you can't do anything after you fail a charge?
No, you shouldn't be able to fail a charge and shoot unless if you're assaulting, but I don't think it has assault, does it?
It does
No,
not.
but it does weapons platform because it's the battle engine.
Yeah, so I think assault breaks the rule that you can charge and shoot, but the rest of the game, if you fail a charge, you're just done.
Charge, your activation ends. So yeah, that's why trample was good with it before.
Yeah.
So you lose a little bit of range there, and then the shooting gallery. I don't understand why these two things need to, I don't know, sort of switch places. Like, I feel like the model would still be in a good place. You can even put that point back on there and leave trample, and it would still be good. Like, it makes it so that you can use the war wagon in whichever capacity that you choose. It's versatile now. It's not just slotted into a role. So you can shoot well with it, or you can charge in with it, and it doesn't limit you in those ways, and it still gives you the mobility that you're accustomed to there. Fraser, what do you think about this?
I mean, the +2. I mean, obviously the bigger benefit is the spray because I mean as we all use the scatter gun and it always helps, but having that +2 helps. The biggest thing I took away from it is that they want you to play more aggressively with it. So the idea is that you can get up there. If you get boxed in, you can wind up dropping the 5-inch pie plate and knocking everything down around you because the blast isn't going to do any damage to you as well. So to your point is they don't want it just to be a weapons platform. They want you to be more aggressive with it. For me, trample, I don't know if I just played people that place their models very well, but with the large, with the extreme base or the super big base, I found people never gave me a trample place to land. I found that was the biggest issue I had. So for me, I didn't have a lot of success with trample, but it may have been just people placing their stuff properly. So I couldn't use that feature. Although I have to admit, I didn't read the trample part. So the first thing I read is, oh, great, you can knock guys down in front of you and just trample over top of them. Then realize, no, that's not going to work.
Fair enough. I was actually talking to a few folks this weekend about the CID for the War Wagon and was complaining that I think the biggest problem it had was its kind of inability to hit. So seeing that kind of get resolved slightly was a boost, but I don't know if it's worth losing trample. I guess we have to wait till we actually see it on the board. But
and the +2 being with models within 5 inches, again, that sort of dictates where you're going to be having to place it to get that value. So do you want to be, if you want to play it forward, I mean, you may get some advantage, but to me, it's a bit of a frustration. If you want to keep it back a little bit, that 5-inch bonus isn't going to really come into play until late game, until you have to move it up.
I think that's a fair assessment for sure.
I mean, the big thing too is that this isn't like, it doesn't change its versatility a whole lot. It still has a lot of ways to like get itself out of all of the the trouble it's in. So say you charge in, you impact a bunch of models, they're knocked down if they're heavies. If they're small, they're all momentumed back because it's a property of the weapon. They're knocked down after the fact if they get hit. So it's unlikely that it gets mired in there and can't reposition in most cases unless you're committing it to a heavy. But it's one of those things where if you're going to commit that model, you need to have some follow-up. It's not going to kill a heavy on its own. It'll do a lot of damage, and it'll soak a lot of damage after the fact. But if you want to continue to have it have the effect on the game that you intend, you need to have a follow-up for whatever you're committing the model on. I mean, and then, again, I touched on it earlier, but it just makes it so it's less of an in-and-out piece where you're managing your threat ranges with the pounder and with the spray, and you're sort of moving in and out until you absolutely have to commit it to a zone or to a big piece. I think they're pointing the model too much. I think that if you can still buff the model, maybe even increase its points back to where it went, and still have it be effective as if you were to do that. Thoughts?
I wonder too if this is starting to work itself towards the new steamroller package as well. Because if you look at it, like basically between its movement, it can get the +2 aiming bonus against kind of anything that would be in the same zone as it. So you're looking at the 12-foot square. 12 by 6 or whatever it is, it could move 7 inches across and shoot something on the other side of the zone and get the +2 to hit against it. So, maybe we're all kind of seeing the effectiveness of it in the new package, but given that.
It'll be interesting to see. Having this super accurate spray is actually pretty nice. When you consider like most targets that you're going to attack with are going to be mid-range anyway, and then about 60 or 70% of them will likely be close enough to gain the bonus. So it'll be interesting. Actually, I'm kind of curious. What were your first thoughts on who you would like to use the War Wagon with, given the changes now?
I wouldn't mind seeing him with a Grim, as always. Like a Hunter's Grim would work really well for him. I think under feet he'd be +4 to hit if he's within that range, right? He can actually feet himself off of. It'd be +6 to hit. So yeah, I mean that'd be pretty effective right there. If there's something high defense that just happens to wander close enough to him,
yeah,
that could be pretty decent.
If it's median range too, mortality is only 10. So you're looking at mortality, you're looking at feet, and then you're looking at the new ability. So he's effectively rat 11.
Wow.
Pretty good.
But is anyone would be foolish enough to leave him within 5 inches, though?
I don't know. It's kind of hard. Like, Grim stretches the field really bad. Like, even if, like, best case scenario, you can hold your feet a turn so that you don't necessarily need to gain the most out of snipe, but the plus to hit bonus is better. Like, your opponent doesn't have a lot of guns on the other side of the table. Then things start to get really, really scary for your opponent. Then the spray, any other ranged attack, and the pounder starts to get really crazy because a lot of, like, if they're only bringing melee models, that pounder's going to fuck up a lot of their troops, especially when it's that accurate.
Yeah.
Land on the buffs really makes that model kind of crazy. In addition to that, it's already highly accurate when it goes into melee mat 6. It's got line breaker. I mean, it's going to be good in that respect. And it was actually the first place that I thought too, which is kind of why I'm rambling about it now. But I'm going to go ahead and get your thoughts on it, Fraser.
I mean, my initial, and it's as it was before, would be Gunbjorn, just because getting snipe on there would help. But that doesn't really make an impact with the benefit. I'd have to give it some thought. To be honest, I haven't given it a lot of thought. I've just been thinking about it as a standalone piece. I mean, I can see it if you try to commit to using it more in scenario, like you said, like what Chris was saying before, trying to get in the scenario and being able to clear those zones out. But that isn't dependent on a caster itself. So I need to give it more thought.
I think another caster he may be good with that I'd seen a comment on the Facebook page would be maybe like a Horgle 2, throw an inviolable resolve up on that thing, and all of a sudden, even though it loses some of its mobility with the CID package, that it can still have the extra boxes. It can still take a better punch, so that might be useful.
Yeah, armor 23 is a thing, man. That's pretty good,
especially with the extra boxes.
Yeah, it survives a single heavy with a high POW, even POW 19. Like, buff stacking is still going to make it a thing, but I mean, you're still committing a heavy to that, and I don't know, trolls seem to punch back pretty hard, so counter removing a heavy for having a good range presence and having a survivable model seems pretty good. Horgle 2 is definitely a solid space to go there. But I think it's going to take a little bit of time playing it out on the table and kind of figuring out what exactly people want to run with it. And honestly, I think that the new theme list is probably going to heavily affect who you start seeing this model with. My second thought, though, was Gunbjorn was going to be pretty heavily favored here because due to the special issue rule, I believe Gunbjorn can still bring Dozer and Smig, if I'm correct.
Correct.
Because he's got the bond, right?
Yep, bonded.
So that makes the War Wagon even more effective due to all of the extra buffs there. It seems pretty good to me. Gunny's already a powerhouse in the meta. He doesn't hate models with guns. Hot swapping snipes sort of his thing. And honestly, like, this might be like breathing new life into the pig units. Like the bushmarkers aren't terrible, but with the burrowers, just using them as a tar pit might not be a bad idea. And I'm sort of getting ahead of myself here because we're still talking about this week's CID, where we get a new theme, and let's go ahead and go over that now. So it's called the Creel Company Theme Force, and I'm not certain why, but that's kind of why they did it. Okay, so composition can only include models, troubled warlocks, non-character war beasts with ranged weapons, pig models and units, troll blood models and units with ranged weapons, the stone and its stone and elder, troll whelps, and then war wagon battle engines. It's very specific on the war wagon battle engines too, so it wouldn't surprise me if we'll be getting a non-war wagon battle engine coming forward. So its special rules include, for every full 20 points of units and battle engines in this army, you can add 1 weapon crew unit, i.e. thumper or pummeler, command attachments, so the bushwhackers command attachment there, and then a medium base solo at free of cost. So anything with a ranged weapon, I think it's just the
Fell collar
at this point. Free models don't count towards the total number of units, as in like you can't add it and have it count towards your full 20 points of stuff because they're free. And then weapon crews in this army gain reposition 3, which is awesome. And then you gain +1 to your starting roll, which is actually highly favorable when you're bringing a mostly shooting composition army. I was sort of lukewarm on this before I had a chance to noodle it over in my head a little bit, and I think it's not terrible, but it's very limited in its scope of warlocks that want to take it. I know it's been pretty quick here, but Fraser, what were your first thoughts?
I was trying to figure out what what you really can do with this. I mean, it's all primarily ranged weapons, so you're basically creating a gun line, but none of our guns have significant power to take out a lot of any jack heavy. So you'd have to do this more into troop lists. Whenever I see these, I'm thinking, well, how can I max out the number of free points I can get? So I think if you go, Chris, I think you said you had a list that had 60 points worth of models or worth of troops. You're able to, so I mean, if you're able to do 60, that gives you 3 heavy weapon crews, so that gets you up to 18 free points in the list. So that was the first thing I looked at. But I don't know, reposition 3 on shooting. I mean, typically you're either getting out of the way or you're getting into better firing positions afterwards. I mean, the pigs have, or the bushwhackers have reposition already, do they not? So they're not gaining anything.
No, they have slip away, I think it is the order.
It is. I think it allows them to stand still, shoot, and then back up.
Oh, okay.
Or at least that's what it was. It used to be bushwhack, and it's slip away now, I think. Is what
okay. Can you tell I don't own those models?
I have a min unit, and I don't have the UA yet for it. So, again, I think they're pretty potent in this meta right now. I mean, combined range models are really good. Combined range models even better in army compositions where you've got things like Grim 2. Like, mortality starts to make things really, really hurt. Especially when you're waterfalling a full unit of those guys. You're taking out 5 high armor models, no problem, with the right composition and spells landing there.
Yep.
Grim's gonna hurt a little bit from not having the Rune Bearer, but
I mean, Jarl would.
I don't think it'll. Overall.
I mean, Jarl. I think Jarl would be a good drop into this, especially on his feet with those clouds. Because clouds don't impact the friendly models, do they not?
No, they don't. Jarl's kind of interesting too because it basically ensures that you get 2 solid turns of shooting before you have to commit your army to a scenario, without losing really heavily. And because he can advance so quickly with most of his army, it gives him sort of a leg up on a lot of scenario, especially since a lot of scenario now is like, hey, everybody fight in the middle. Yep. It doesn't tug you around the map the way that it used to. So,
but I think a good thing that Jarl benefits from in that theme too is the +1 to go first. I think the math works out to be something like you get a 70% chance or something like that of actually getting the first turn with the +1, and he's definitely a caster that benefits from having that first turn and being able to fuel a rock if you have it, or get his upkeeps out and not have to be spending all his focus on trying to shoot stuff in the first couple turns.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes it so that he can more effectively position his army and make sure the buffs are out. And then even if he has to hot swap certain buffs It gives him an extra turn to do so, and then not be threatened from most armies, as it were.
Yeah.
So, pretty interesting.
I mean, Power of Dunia kind of does the same thing for him. Well, I mean, his upkeeps all start in play on that one, but this one, gives him that shoot-in presence from the units that he's going to like. So
yeah, absolutely. And it largely doesn't affect the type of battle group that he has to take in the other one. I mean, he would want to take a similar battle group, but now it's like, okay, he doesn't have to take all battle group in order to be effective in the tier there. So.
Now, do you see yourself taking much past what your battle group points are in these kind of lists and just go troop heavy?
I mean, unless you have a spot for a gargantuan in your list building, perhaps even like solo Mountain King and maybe one light, for depending on which battle group there. I don't see you doing much more than taking like taking a slag and taking a blitzer, or taking a slag and taking a bomber, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just basically filling it out. Having a battle group is not going to be the strength of this list. High yield model removal is kind of what you're shooting for here, and then given the way the scenarios work right now, it's going to to a degree favor troops. So this is actually going to sort of fall right into the purview of that list design.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the thing too is, I mean, with that +1 to go first, there's so many casters that can really benefit from that in a huge way and get a whole lot of board presence that maybe trolls don't generally have. Like you look at like a Gristle 2 with a dash or something like that. All of a sudden those burrowers can be 20 inches up the board, dug in. Bushwhackers could be 21 inches, I believe it is. And that's on first turn. So now you are moving into a potentially aimable range for the Bushwhackers, and then they can slip away. I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of good opportunities for the units in that list. The other thing too is like you could take it. I think the numbers work out. So burrowers, bushwhackers, and rock unit works out to exactly 40 points. So that's the UA for the bushwhackers as one of your free guys, and then Pummeler Crew or whatever else you wanted to take. Braylon Wanderhard is also a medium-based troll solo with a ranged weapon. So she would be pretty awesome because she could shoot. She could advance with the gun and run, I think it's called, and then she could reposition. So that's what 12, 15-inch move in a turn. That's a 19-inch move or a 17-inch move if you have dash. I mean, it's pretty good.
Let's not forget, gentlemen, this is our first tier list with Fire Eaters in it.
Ah, yes. Didn't even think about that. I've been so handicapped that I didn't even think about it.
I didn't realize this at the outset. And now this tier is broken as fuck. Because Fire Eaters are broken as fuck. So, all right, I'm sold. No negativity anymore on this tier list. I can take Fire Eaters. We're good.
There's no more grumpiness. He's happy now.
I mean, you probably, those paying attention, you probably saw my face light up. I'm like, oh, I can use Fire Eaters again. God, this is going to be great. So... all right, we've rambled on a little bit longer than intended on this particular subject, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next spot. So you mentioned it in the pre-ramble here, though, Fraser. Why don't you go ahead and tell us where your progress on your scattergunners are coming, buddy?
Yeah, I started in prep for the CID. I started painting my some of the guys for my battle wagon because I like to play painted if I can. And I painted the one little pig scattergunner, and I said, "Wow, that was fun." And I looked at my shelf of my scattergunners that have been collecting dust for since I bought them. And so I've been slowly working my way through them and just having a blast. And I'm very excited to try them. I came up with a Horgel 2 list. I think I talked about it last week, which is going to be my fun list at the Sioux this weekend. But it's been fun. I find if I don't feel pressured or if I'm just painting for something for fun, it always seems to look a lot nicer because I'm not rushing through something for a task and just doing the bare bones. I'm just taking my time, and I've been quite enjoying it. So I'll post some recent pics. I've got about half of them, about 90% done. I'm just doing some of the highlighting and pieces on the other ones, but I don't know if you guys have painted the scattergunners, but I glued them together and then I started painting them. And then I said, oh, crap, I got to take the guns off to get all the stuff, the detail I want to get. So I had to pop off all the guns and then put them back on again. But my only complaint about the model, whoever sculpted them gave them like super weird pointy fingers that look weird. It's like they don't look like the big sausages that they normally have. It's like this these pointy almost claw-like things. So it's a little bit odd.
Wait, are you painting the new ones or the old ones?
Oh, the old ones, the metal ones.
Interesting. I never noticed that about them. I have the old ones as well. So
yeah, their fingers. The UA was newer ones, so they look more realistic. But
they're a lot bigger too.
Oh yeah.
Well, so
I sadly missed. There was a box of discounted scattergunners at the OTC that I didn't pick up, and by the time I realized, yeah, I should get this, they were gone. So that's what I've been painting. Anyone else doing any painting this week?
Certainly not me. Chris, you got anything on the table?
This is gonna sound like heresy. I painted a little bit of Kador this in the last month here.
Is
so
that
that was? I know that's probably just painful to hear a little bit. Just
Is that the sound of someone jumping on the bandwagon?
Yeah, here's the bandwagon rolling by. I was like, I'd like to join. I'll take some of that. But I also painted some trolls, so hope is not all lost. I was painting a couple winter trolls actually
Awesome.
This last week here for the tournament I was going to. I was really sad though. I had my winter troll. I converted them up. I'm trying to make them look kind of like mini glacier kings. So they have big spines on their back, big icicles on their fists and stuff. And I had gotten the first winter troll to a point where I was gonna kind of flock his back with a little bit of snow, and I've seen it done a few other places. I did it on my glacier king, so thought the process is gonna work out well. And for some reason, the combination of baking soda and glue and paint that I was using, which I've used several times in the past, was not working at all. It was like the second they touched, it like instantly solidified, and I tried to like cram it on the model as quickly as I could, and it just did not work out. It was so basically the model went for a bath after the tournament.
So things went horribly wrong.
Horribly wrong. I was texting a friend of mine, just being like, yeah, maybe got a couple hours left to go. We're almost to the point where I'm done. And then I texted him 5 minutes later. I'm like, I'm so upset. I'm just going to bed. Screw this now.
I think we've all had those moments.
I feel like you added just a little too much water to your mixture. You have to remember that glue is mostly like flour, and a little bit of horse hoof. I mean, depending on which glue you use, but your standard glue actually has a fair amount of flour. And then if you add too much water to that flour, it will get hard really, really quickly. It's why most of your glue solutions, like if you go to a hobby store and you get stuff for making trains and stuff like that, it's all very watery so that you can adjust your mixture to, how you want it to set effectively. So maybe that's why you ended up with that kind of a reaction.
Yeah, it's a good suggestion, something I didn't think of. Like I said, it's a process I've gone through a few times before. I have a few armies that are flocked with snow, and yeah, it was an odd situation. I don't know what was going on, but I'll definitely give the water idea a try.
Yeah, man, happy to help. I don't paint anything these days. I got no time on my hands, so I envy you. I wish I had more time for the hobby.
Fair enough.
Alrighty, so games played. I didn't get anything in last week, and I spoke about my last couple of games in the last podcast. Fraser, you got anything to talk about? Home Machine stuff?
Actually, it's been a bit of a dry spell for Home Machine just because everyone's busy doing stuff. I'm retooling a little bit, so more on that in the coming weeks. I did get my first game ever with Gristle 2 in about 2 weeks ago. Played one of the guys who actually had sort of semi-retired from the game and then came back with his Kador. And yeah, I had lots of fun. It was I stole a list from the World of Creel blog site because I've been reading it, and actually we're trying to get him on the cast for an episode as well. But it stole his list that he was talking about, and it was lots of fun. I mean, she works on so many levels, and I was able to get some Fen blades in between some of the Iron Fang pikemen. Did a nice amount of damage. Just was able to take and because I ran it in the Band of Heroes theme, it basically pretty much I played against Irusk 1, and I think his feat gives everyone super tough. So Band of Heroes basically says, nope, that doesn't work. So that was a good list for me to play, and not so much for Corey. So I trying to convince him to play the game some more, and I sort of stomped him. But he'd stomped me more than enough times when we played in Mark II, so I didn't feel terribly bad. But no, it was lots of fun. She's one of my two OTC lists, Sue lists for this weekend.
Sweet deal. Chris, you got any fun games played recently?
Yeah, I was saying in the pre-ramble there, I was at a tournament last weekend. Big event out here in Red Deer actually, called GrotzCon. So there was an IG on the Friday, and then on the Saturday they had an event called the Last Chance Qualifier, where you played to try to qualify for the tournament on Sunday, which was the Alberta War Machine Invitational, where basically we had all kind of worked up points throughout the year to try to go to it. And I had already had my invitation, so I was just playing for fun on that one. But on the IG on Friday, I got smoked coming out the gate by Mr. Corey Doyle. He had a Nemo 3 list, then he just, for some reason, I did not think about Force Hammer, and he pushed my Mauler just far enough away from my Glacier King to E-leap a bunch of shots on the Gunbjorn, and that was basically that. Basically, I had the pleasure of moving my models off the board, and that was all. And then played a few other fun games after that. Got to just kind of hang out with friends, and then Saturday I played a couple games. Played a newer guy kind of in the first game, and unfortunately he had about a 27-minute long feat turn with an infantry-based Damiano list that would have been good, except I was playing Doomy 3 for kind of the first time, and I had feated, so that was
Well, that's gotta
not
hurt.
so fun for him. Yeah, and then only played one other game that day, lost, and wasn't really feeling so great for War Machine after that, so I took a seat for the rest of the day. And then because I went out drinking with Corey Doyle and a buddy named Tom Carter on the Saturday night, Sunday was also a short day. I kind of sat there like a poker player with my hood up and and had some sunglasses on at one point, and just got through my first game, and then took a seat the rest of the day and just watched. So
I think we've all been there in one time or another.
yeah.
That's me at Las Vegas Open a year ago. Just
still lots of fun. You get to, the important part is you're there, you're hanging out with people, you're enjoying yourself. I could have just as much fun sometimes not playing the game as I have playing it. So
absolutely. And I lied to you. I actually had a game in last week that I can talk about. So I've been toying around with it recently, and it's my Ragnar double colossal list, and I played it against my friend's Kador, and he was running Nemo. Not Nemo. He was running Nemo. Jeez. He was running Erisk 1 with Ruin and Behemoth, and my list was roughly double Gargantuan, so it's Glacier King, Mountain King, Dunia's Knot, Stone, a few other accoutrements, whelps are in there. But I basically was able to hold feet until turn 3, contest scenario, and he committed his entire army and couldn't kill the Glacier King. And then in return, killed his 2 heavies, healed it half, and he had nothing else that could really kill it feasibly in one turn. And so I eventually won on scenario. Don't underestimate Ragnar double Gargantuan. It was pretty tilting. Maybe if he was fielding a different list, a Sorsha list or a Butcher list, it might have been a little close, but it just would have dictated how I played a little bit and what I was willing to commit. But he committed everything and couldn't kill it. So it forces some interesting list chicken if you're actually considering bringing it into competitive. The list was also in Power of Dunia as well, so upkeep out and threshold increased. So pretty fun list. I plan on experimenting with it more in the future. It'll be fun.
Excellent.
Okey-doke. So this is the section, our main topic here, where Chris gets to talk more about himself. So let's go over your Adepticon lists. And I heard that you brought a rather unconventional model, i.e. Nitro, on that one.
Yeah, the Nitro, one of my new favorite models after playing with them at Adepticon. Yeah, I've been playing the list for a while now, so I can basically tell them off by heart. I played them last weekend too. So it was Ragnar, 3 heavies being the Bomber, the Earthborn, and the Mauler. There's a Bouncer in the list, an Axer, and then everyone's favorite, the Night Troll. Usually flanked by 2 units of Rune Shapers, and then a full rock in the back with UA. Good part about this list, I find, you can move kind of the heavies up front, including the Knight Troll or the bouncer, and you can usually get somebody to commit a heavy or something kind of important onto them, and then you get to beat it up with your heavies. Particularly if a rune shaper can walk over and knock that guy down, it makes it even easier, because the one thing I like most about trolls is when you can hit automatically. We got plenty of knockdown tech in the Ragnar list to help you out with that. So that plan exactly ended up actually getting me into the IG finals, not finals, but the top 4. So the other list was Gristle 2, Double Bomber, Mountain King, Axer, and there's a bouncer in the list. Again, there's a Min Stone in that list, and then the free solos are Whelps, a Janissa, and I want to say a Rune Bearer, but that doesn't sound right. Why can't I think of that at the moment? Doesn't matter. There's another solo in there. Yeah, that list is fun because, again, a little bit of knockdown tech, and then with Gristle 2, and then the rest of the list kind of just blows up the world. If you can knock down a heavy, or shoot a heavy with the deafen spray, makes it real easy for the bombers to pick on it. And I find typically I can remove 1.5 heavies per turn, 2 if they're lighter kind of heavies. Like if you got I've had multiple games where I've had a Death Jack and a stupid Diggin Heavy Jack, what's his face, trying to hide, and all of a sudden the Duggan guy gets knocked down, Death Jack gets knocked down, and between a Mountain King spraying and a few bomber shots, you can lose 2 heavies real quick. So yeah, that list is it can be pretty mean, and it can be pretty surprising. And I found there were a couple times, especially at Adepticon, that is kind of a dark horse. People didn't expect the knockdown tech at such high of a range from Gristle 2, and all of a sudden, their casters face down in the dirt and taking bombs on their heads. So it's it can be sneaky if people don't know what's coming. So yeah, as I said, I played in the IG and ended up going 4-0. I played a really good guy out of the gate. He was playing Signar, and I played Ragnar into Haley 2, and by all respects, he probably should have won the game. He had a really good feet turn, took out a couple heavies, but I managed to sneak some Rune Shapers over to a flag and start scoring. He sent a pod over and to contest it, but that was basically the only thing that was kind of contesting for most of the game. So every turn it was, here's a pod, I kill it and get a point. Here's a pod, I kill it and get a point. And finally, he just kind of he lost the storm wall at one point, and then he couldn't get enough over to that flag to contest it, and that was the game. He did have a pretty decent assassination attempt on Ragnar with the storm wall, but he only, by the time he got there, he only had a couple attacks. He had to kind of trample in, and then wasn't able to finish it off. So a little bit better dice, and he certainly would have had it, but it was just shy. So yeah, that was a pretty intense game. I played another guy who had a Ret army. I think it was triple colossal. It was very scary, but at one point he kind of parted the seas for me, and when I was playing Gristle 2 into him, and I didn't think he knew what was coming, so he thought he was safe, kind of being behind a wall with his caster, with the feed up, and it was Kalissa, and unfortunately that was not the case. She got a Gristle shot and 2 bombers and a Mounted King within range, and that was essentially it. So yeah, played a Convergence player, very good guy named Steven. He had the new theme with those guys, so lots of the floaty balls on the field, double tap. That was just terrifying. I played Gristle 2 into him, just being stupid, didn't didn't realize exactly what was coming for me, and found out very quickly that those two were unkillable for my armies. So fortunately, I was able to kind of feed enough to him while killing the rest of his heavies that I was able to get up on scenario and then just hold out the Teps from the zone and win on scenario. So and then my last game of IG, I played a fellow playing Circle. He was playing Kaya 3, and he uh, had the opportunity to come in and, like I said, on my line of light trolls, and he killed my Earthborn with some Wold Weirds. I thought I was going to be safe, but he had Pulverizer on him, and that was not the case. So he brought in his heavies on Kaya 3's feet turn, again thinking he'd be okay, but I was able to sneak a Rune Shaper around, knock down Kaya, send Janissa up to push 2 heavies to the right, which opened up a small enough gap that a bomber could shoot her to knock off kind of the first 2 Furies she was sitting on. And then a Night Troll with Rage who had healed for 1. He had 1 box left after taking a big punch to the face from a Pure Blood, I believe it was. And so he healed for 1. He was at 2 boxes. I said, well, I don't really need the mind because you're knocked down. And he walked up and put Kaya in the dirt. So Night Troll MVP right there.
Nice.
Yeah, and that was that. Like I said, that was the clinching game that got me into the IG top 4. So I was pretty happy for the Night Troll. And then I played in the Masters the next day and played a few more games. This one, it's been a while, so my memory is going to get a little foggier here. Played again a bunch of good players. Played a fellow named Dave Unger. He played Minions, and he ended up dropping Sturm and Dragon to me, which I thought was interesting. I might be confusing this with my second round of IG. In fact, I think I am. But either way, played him, and he dropped Sturm and Dragon to me. He had Rask with 20 plus Gators. I figured that was what was coming my way, but alas, heavy pigs kind of all over the board. TK'd me a couple times. There was a kind of funny moment where, because we're using proxy bases, which are no longer allowed, I guess, I don't know. I had an Earthborn on the board, and he was TK'd backwards and knocked down, and I had this great plan, not remembering that my Earthborn was turned around because he was just a base, and had this great plan to move a guy and knock down the world, and then my Earthborn was going to stand up and swing it, his heavy, and then I realized that after I sacrificed my movement to stand up that I was facing the wrong direction, and shed a small tear for that Earthborn as he got pummeled in the face the next turn. So, but yeah, overall, that was a great game. It came down to he had a couple models left trying to contest the zone. Couldn't quite get enough in there. He was kind of throwing anything he could in there. Alton Ashley ran in at one point, and Effort Scout ran in, and it just kept getting picked off kind of one by one until we were low on clock. But yeah, I was able to close that out in the last few turns. So in the Masters, I played a guy named Dana M something or other, and this was the second luckiest moment of the tournament for me. He had a Lara 2 and had a bunch of halberdiers, and I thought I had killed enough of them that he wasn't going to be able to do as much damage as he did, but he charged kind of from downtown with what was left of a unit of halberdiers, which is probably still half to 2/3 of the unit left, but didn't realize they'd all be within range with their threat of like 19 crazy inches, and took out the Mountain King. And he had a Helios in the list. I was again playing Gristle 2, and looked at the board and thought to myself, there's no way I can kill Helios, so kind of have to just go for it at this point. There was a assassination on the table, but not easily doable one. So fortunately, my dice were with me. I moved Gristle up. I feeded. She shot down the Arcnode Light, who was blocking my line of sight to Alera and was behind a wall, and so needed an 11 to hit her. Fair enough. Hit it on the first one. Then I needed to follow that up with a 14 to hit Alera. Of course, I hit that. And then she got knocked down, and so Gristle got one more shot at her, and then a bomber walked up and finished it off. So that was the second luckiest moment of the tournament, because my last game I played a poor Haley 2 player. We were playing on the pit, and he was playing heavy metal, and there was a burning forest in the middle of the board, and his Jack started to come around one side of the forest on my side with the flag, and Haley went to camp the other flag, and there wasn't a lot on that side of the board, but there was a unit of Rune Shapers, and I figured they were within range. She didn't feat. I figured I'd go up and take a shot and just see kind of what happens. 2 of them were within range. First guy moved up, rolled a 9 to hit, and then a 9 for damage. and and then the second guy moved up, thinking, okay, well, we're doing well. He had already moved up, but he also rolled a 9 to hit, and then proceeded to follow that with an 11 for damage, and that killed Haley too. So this was like second turn of the game, and I just looked at him. I was like, I don't know what just happened. I'm sorry. This is after the first one hit. There was a bomber over there that was going to be committed to go help out with the Haley 2 assassination, but it should not have happened by any stretch of the imagination. I was just fortunate that the dice were with me, and yeah, I'm very glad that guy also made it into the Masters top 8 because at the 3-1 position, because I felt like he just got screwed that game. Like there's nothing, he played it well. There's nothing he could do. He had put some pressure on me earlier, and it just happened that I rolled 3 9s and an 11. So what can you do? So yeah, those were my kind of games through the first 2 days, and then it all went downhill. It's just boom right into the ground, unfortunately. I played God, I'm gonna forget people's names all over the place now. I think it was Tom. No, it couldn't have been a Tom. Haley 2 player, first round of the IG. He was list locked into Haley 2, so it took him about 2 seconds to pick his list, and me about 5 seconds to pick mine, knowing he was locked and I could play whatever I kind of wanted into him between Gristle 2 and Ragnar. I figured between the Mountain King and 2 bombers and some knockdown tech that Gristle 2 would be able to get there and hold off the Storm Lances that he had, and I think it would have worked out well, but unfortunately I put myself in a precarious position after his feat turn, and he was able to assassinate Gristle 2 with after a TK from Thorn, and this was my dice a little bit coming back on me. Thorn was kind of in the middle of the board and got shot by Gristle 2, knocking him down, and then got shot twice more. And if I was smart, I would have put a hazard on him, but I figured there was no way he was going to live. But then I rolled a Snake Eyes for damage on my third shot with Gristle. And then the Mountain King also rolled garbage for damage, leaving Thorn on 1 box and able to be repaired by the mechanics that were coming up the board. So if there had been a hazard on him, that's less likely to happen, but basically that 1 box and the ability to heal him meant he could move up, and of course that 1 box was in Cortex, so he could run up after getting repaired for the Arc Node, and then I got TK'd, and then I got lightninged and shot to pieces, and then a Stormclad on the face, and that was less than ideal. So that was my one and only game of IG. We had discussed beforehand that 3 of the 4 of us would have played a second round, and I got number 4 in that. So fortunately, there was no second round for me, unfortunately. So and we went to Masters top 8. I got dropped into JVM, so always an easy matchup against JVM for sure. I found out the magic of Fiona 2. That was fantastic. So we played Ragnar versus Fiona 2, and it was I don't know if it was a close game, but it was a closer game than I thought it was going to be off the bat. We kind of really grounded out. At the end of the day, he had, I think, 2 pretty beat up heavies left on the board, but I only had Ragnar left and a couple rock models left on the board. So that was it was a real grind fest. He didn't score because he was too his flag was too close to where I was threatening with a bomber, so he basically never kind of came over there. There was a bomber and Rune Shapers waiting for her to move up and take position on the flag, and unfortunately JVM is far too smart to fall for my stupid antics of knocking your caster down and tossing bombs with them. So that was unfortunate, but it was a really good game. I had a blast playing him. And then I got Mike Perrier, I believe is how you say his last name, in the last Perrier. I played him in the second round of Masters there, and again, a very fun game. I thought early on, for some really dumb reason, that I had a assassination attempt that was able to pull off against Harby. He was playing with a bunch of infantry and the Flamebringers, or not Flamebringers, the daughters on the horses, whatever they're called. Yeah, I was able to get a Mountain King to get a spray on her. If I'd killed a model, which obviously isn't going to happen for some reason, I thought it might against Harby too, but that was just a dumb play on my behalf. If I'd killed a model, I would have gotten a second spray on her, and then both bombers could have shot her, but she was behind a Vigilant, so she had cover. She had a couple shield guards. Like, I don't know where I got the math from in my head that I was going to be able to pull this off, but it was there, and it did not work out. In retrospect, I should have stayed where I was, gone up hard on attrition. I would have been able to basically wipe out most of his errants and the daughters on the horses, and then I would have been up pretty significantly in that game. But that was not the route I went to go, and ended up, it was Pitt again on that one, and he just kept scoring and scoring, and I had the Mountain King there at first. I was contesting, but after he took that out, I couldn't get anything up to the flag to stop him. So 3 unfortunate games in the finals between Masters and IG, but we'll get there again, and next time we'll have more experience.
Yeah, your first foray into the top 16 of a big event is definitely going to be a rough one. I experienced similar woes when I did the same lock and load 2015. But good on you for a well-deserved placing there. Masters is a shark tank, man. I mean, just like IG, but the top players in this meta, in this game, are just, most of them, very excellent, and excellent opponents for that matter. I mean, I haven't personally played against JVM yet. It's kind of one of the few that I haven't really had a chance to face off against yet, but it's definitely an experience. So you've got this tournament under your belt. We've got a fair amount of time under this new iteration of the game. Let's talk for just a few moments before we end the podcast about like where we think trolls are in the large scale of the game right now. I'm gonna go ahead and move it to Fraser because we just made Chris talk for like 25 minutes here. So Fraser, you don't have as much experience as Chris here, but you're about to go to a big tournament. You've got fresh ideas and you're rearing to go. What do you think about trolls as they stand now?
I think trolls, like any faction, if they're in the hands of someone who's good at the game, they have a better chance of playing, or better chance of winning. So I don't think it's because as people have been reading the Facebook group and some of the forums, there's a little discouraging talk about trolls that have been going around, and we've covered the last couple of weeks as well. So I don't think it's completely the factions having issues. I think if you get in the good hands, then you'll get good results. But I mean, and again, I don't have I've struggled to get games in the last couple of weeks, other than the in prep for the major tournament I'm going to. So I've played each of the lists I'm playing once. So I'm not holding out much hope for myself. But I think I think there's I don't think we're in as bad a place as people are making out to be. I think that we have to sort of get out of troll players as a whole have to start thinking something, experimenting with other items that we don't aren't currently using. Look at like Chris, an example. You're bringing night trolls. No one's bringing night trolls, and you're able to get use them for tech that people aren't expecting. Same with the winter troll. You don't see very many people playing winter trolls, but when I played it out the OTC, having the freezer. The freezer or winter coat that he has. But that the winter trolls animus was my anti Una 2 tech at the time and actually saved me a game. So we have a lot of tools available to us that I don't think everyone's looking at because they're dismissed as not being good, or people haven't tried them recently and aren't looking for the new or different combination. So I think trolls in the right hands will win games. Like if you give trolls to Bubba or Bubba Dalton, or you give it to some other players, they'll do well. For everyone else, I think it's a little bit harder, and we have to work a little bit more at it. But I don't think we're as bad as everyone says we are. But I also don't. I think we have to put more work into it to be at a good place.
I'd say that's fair. From my standpoint, I mean, I just recently went to this year's Seattle Open to sort of survey the meta. I didn't have a lot of lofty expectations for myself with the limited amount of games that I've played this year, but I did observe some very key things. Like the meta, man, the meta keys into what's really strong in the scenario packet right now, and almost hyper focuses on it, almost as hard as they focus on tier lists. So I then went back to the drawing board and sort of tried to counter the meta, I guess, like what I saw, what I could do, what trolls are good at, that kind of thing, which is sort of where my Ragnar list came out of. And then I compare it with, whatever else I felt like the meta was driving to. I don't think trolls are in a bad place at all. I think people just need to, like you said, sort of pick up some things that people aren't quite expecting. I mean, I've sort of been the king of the snowflakes in the past with a lot of my list designs, but part of that was just, analytics on what people were using, what you could do to get around it, and what worked best. So some careful thought into what your list building is actually going to be will take you farther than you think. But, I mean, just like anything, practice. See what's out there, see what your friends are playing, see what's on the net. Like, just, you got to have some critical thinking on the subject. So now to a person who's had more experience than the rest of us, Chris, what is your thought currently?
To be fair, I don't know if it's good experience, but there might be some experience there. Yeah, I'd agree. I don't think that trolls are in a terrible position. We're certainly not top of the heap, or not top of the totem pole, but I would not say that we are the worst as well. I mean, and with some critical thought and some good play, trolls can beat anyone on a even playing field. If there's not a matchup I wouldn't take in the world if I could play it again. I mean, it just takes some thinking around what could be better and what maybe unique situations you could get yourself into. So, for example, Fraser, you mentioned the Winter Trolls Animus. So the reason I was painting 2 Winter Trolls for the tournament I was going to was because I figured with JVM kind of ruining the world with Oracles and Fiona 2, the Winter Trolls Animus would be a good counter to that. I don't care how high your defense is if I can make you stationary. So for the first couple turns between the Axer and the Winter Troll Spray, you got a threat of 15 inches, which you could aim for that kind of Furied beast wherever they are, or any other beast, and probably kill it with the Bouncer in the backfield, or even when they're going to go to commit on that feet turn. One heavy killing the Winter Troll under stone isn't a guarantee, so it puts a little bit of a level of risk onto something heading in. So that's just, I don't know, like I said, it's an example of thinking about the games you're playing, thinking about the matchup, and thinking about how you can improve for next time. So as much as I love the Night Troll in my Ragnar lists, he might be getting replaced with the Winter Troll. So we'll see. I don't know. But I think there's more combinations that you can find out there, just like that one, that people maybe aren't expecting, that you can utilize to your advantage.
Yep. Scattergunners. Everything's going to be scattergunners going forward. I'm on the scattergunner train.
I'm excited to see it for sure. It's kind of funny, to be honest, I haven't played a ton of games with other casters or other lists other than the ones I took to Adepticon, for the mere fact that I said I was going to practice those lists for a while. But I had a few guys message me after Adepticon and say, what do you think of this list? What do you think of these guys? Like, what do you like? What do you dislike? And I was like, honestly, my response to kind of everyone who asked me a question about other casters or other lists was, play it until you find something that works, because there's so much out there that you can use. I can't even start to give an opinion on the entire breadth of the faction, because I've only been focused in on this kind of pigeonhole of a list for now. And now that that's passed, I'm kind of in that same position of finding out what else is going to work throughout the faction that we can start to build on. So I'm excited coming out of a major tournament to go play new stuff.
I agree entirely. I mean, list innovation is going to be the literal best thing for this game going forward, especially with how focused everybody is on tier lists. Like, go find something new. Go and find the next broken combo in the game. Play the hell out of it, and see where we can go with the faction. Innovation can only happen if you're, not afraid to experiment and lose. You're going to lose sometimes because of the list that you've decided to make. And that's okay. I mean, take it as a learning experience.
Yep.
I mean,
exactly.
One of the earliest things that, new players are told is, ask questions. When things, whether or not it ends well, just be like, all right, what did you think of the list? What did you think of how I played? Could I have done something different? What do you think? Engage with your opponent, and try and find out what's good. I mean, that's the only way you're going to learn, is by playing. We can all dojo forever, and you could be the next Scrumcast host by doing so, but it's not going to get us anywhere. But the three of us have rambled on for quite long enough this evening. We managed to complete a successful full podcast for the first time in weeks. Woo-hoo. And on that bombshell, this has been the Scrumcast, signing off.